Hi, good afternoon. In this video, I am going to share with you about America and Israel led war against Iran that has been started on 28 February. Okay, so this war has created tremendous problem throughout the world, but in this video, I am specially going to focus on the impact on India, how India has started to suffer because of Iran and America Israel war. So, these war, I would say that this is one of the worst and deadliest wars started by America and Israel, because Israeli missile has killed the Muslim community's highest or topmost leader, that is Ayatollah Ali Khomeini. And the death of Ayatollah Ali Khomeini has created furor against people in the world. People in the world, particularly the Muslim community as a whole, are really very angry with the US and Israel. Not only that, they have destroyed their feeling. They have hit, America and Israel have hit the religious sentiment of the Muslim community. If a top community leader or if a top leadership of a religion is dead or is killed by an intended missile attack, what might happen? It is natural that the people or the followers of that leader will try to kill or try to take revenge of their leader's death. Okay, here in this video I am going to say all these things along with particularly the impacts on India. India is having good relationship with both Israel and Iran. Few days before of Israel's attack in Iran, Indian Prime Minister went to visit that country and they had very good relation, but the opposition parties are here in India complaining that why Mr. Modi did not criticize Israel for attacking Iran or for attacking other countries. I would explain that part also in this video, but you know that Iran and Israel's war has created tremendous bad impact on India. What are the sectors India is suffering mostly? India suffers from remittance problem. India suffers from sectoral disruption. India suffers from gas crisis. India's monetary losses is taking place. India's pharmaceutical industries are also getting badly affected. Not only that, geopolitical and social basis of India has been confronted with tremendous pressure, and stock market or rupee devaluation. These are the main issues, these are the main impacts India is having. In this video, I am going to share with you all those things in precise. Okay, let me discuss with the pharmaceutical problems, or India is called as the pharmacy of the world. If India is called the pharmacy of the world, then how these pharmaceutical industries are getting impacted by the America, Israel and Iran war. You know that India now is in a good position. India is main, but India imports 70% of its raw materials from China, and this war has impacted China's delivery in India. Why? If China does not give its raw material to India, what would happen? India's export to African countries, to UNICEF, to World Health Organization. All these institutions and organizations will be badly affected. Why? Because they people buy Indian medicines, Indian life-saving medicines, India's cancer medicines, India's other medicines are exported to almost 200 countries. But due to imposition of sanctions on Iran, China is also greatly affected, and they are not being able to send the raw material properly and timely. Okay, this is one of the greatest problems India is having. And not only India, along with India, around 200 countries in the world will get affected because of Israel and America's war. So this is one of the greatest impacts. And how India will send the medicines to different countries, because there is a problem in Indian Ocean. If India wants to send its shipment to those countries, it will have to find out another route, and that route, there is some routes are, the temperature is hot. If in the hot temperature, the life-saving medicines, the life-saving medicines or cancer medicines, those are carried through fridge, is not possible, or it will be difficult for India to send. So the prices or cost of medicine will be increased. The cost of medicine will be increased for both UNICEF and World Health Organization. Similarly, the cost of production will be increased in India. So the world as a whole will be suffered due to the war. This is one of the greatest problems, the greatest impacts I told you about this war, of this war. Secondly, you can say Indian nearly how many people? Nearly many people. I mean, many people they live in the Indian people, they live in the Gulf countries, and the Gulf countries, they live and they send the remittances, and with the remittances the families are sustained. And if they cannot send the money back to their families, their family members will suffer a lot, and they have already started to suffer. And you know that Indian people as a whole, moreover, the people who were living in the Gulf countries are having great problems, because there are bomb shellings, there are missile attacks, and their place of work are at stake. That is why they are not free to work. Many of them are living in hotels. Their factories and their workplaces are closed for many days, and some of them have lost their jobs. In this situation, they are failing to earn money and send back the same to their families. And if they cannot send their money to their families back in India, how they will sustain, how they will maintain their livelihood? So you see, America and Israel's war against Iran has impacted on the life and livelihood of Indian people. So, Indian people, how many Indian people live there? Do you know how many Indian people live in Gulf countries? They were 6.6 million in 1990, but now the number of Indian people living in the Gulf countries have swelled roughly to 18.5 million. You just imagine 18.5 million Indian people live in the UAE, and some 10 million Indians live and work across 6 states of Gulf Cooperation Council. Those are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman and Bahrain. So that is roughly half of India's global migrant workers. When began decades ago, a wave of temporary labor migration has evolved into something more settled. Not only that, there are many students from India, those who go to the UAE and study there. In 2025 alone, the UAE enrolled over 2,47,000 Indian school students. Can you imagine? 247,000, it means 2,047,000 students. They went there for studying in schools, with sizable numbers also in Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Kuwait. Evidence that many families are putting down roots rather than rotating in and out as short-term workers. So, there are almost 10 million Indian citizens who live and work in the Gulf region. Their safety and well-being is utmost priority. So, Indian government cannot deny the safety and security of these people. So, because they are Indian citizens, their safety and security is the priority of Indian people. Okay. So, Indian diaspora, how Indian diaspora is suffering, I told you a little. So, Indian medical industry, Indian diaspora and against. So, after discussing about the pharmaceutical impact and then the problem of remittances, now I would like to focus on another important impact on India, that is fuel. Fuel crisis has started on India. What is the situation now? As the US and Israel wage war with Iran, India is beginning to feel the tremor at home. Why? Because India doesn't have oil resources. Oil resources are not adequately available in India. So, India has to depend on Gulf countries and other countries on liquefied natural gas, that is LNGs, and liquefied natural gas, that is LPG. Okay. So, nearly half of India's crude oil imports, along with a large share of its LNG and LPG shipments, normally pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So, Strait of Hormuz is very much important strategically for supplying oil from UAE, from Iran to India. Okay. So, India's ties to the region ran deeper than energy. About 10 million Indians, I just told that about 10 million Indian people live and work there in the Gulf countries, and they sending home record remittances that support millions of families and help finance a large slice of India's external accounts. So, more broadly, India's economic links to the Middle East run deep. The region accounts for 17% of India's exports, supplies 55% of its crude oil, and generates 38% of its remittances, according to Jefferies, a brokerage firm. So, India depends mostly on the UAE. Not only UAE, I mean Gulf countries, the Gulf countries also depend on India, because India sends or exports many goods, many things. There are essential things to the UAE. Those things they are not getting. Similarly, India is not being too able LNG and LPG. Okay, you see, now India has chosen wait and watch policy. Many opposition leaders have started to complain that why India is not blaming or criticizing Iran for, not Iran, criticizing Israel for attacking Iran. Because just 2 days ago, 2 days before the attack of Israel on Iran, Indian Prime Minister went to Israel to visit to meet the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. Both Israel and India has very good relation, has very good strategic relation, military relation, political relation, and economic relation. On the other hand, with Iran, we have relation for many decades, and more broadly you can say India and Indian civilization and Iranian civilization is very old, and from ancient period we have trade relation with Iran. So in this case, Iran is India's friend. Similarly, Israel is also India's friend. If and India is dependent on Iran for oil, India is dependent on Israel for its military strength, for its military supplies. So both are important. Why India is taking the policy of wait and watch? Because if India criticizes Israel, then it might not get military support from Israel. On the other hand, if India criticizes or cuts the relationship with Iran, then India may not get its oil from Iran, because India does not produce enough oil. Nearly 88% oil India imports from different countries of the world, and most of the oil comes from the Gulf countries. Now, so this is the situation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, people complain that he is unwilling to criticize Israel during his recent visit. But I told you why Indian Prime Minister does not criticize Israel for attacking Iran. Okay, so next I will say how India is impacted by Israel and Iran war on oil and gas, because India is heading fuel shortages. We all know that in India there is a tension and there is a anxiety among almost all people, all consumers here in India, because there is shortage of LPG. For last Yes, for last 1 month, people are clamoring for booking of their LPG or their cylinders, gas cylinders, but many of them are failing to receive. And as a result, there are many complaints, there are many turmoils, scuffles, and there are many tensions in different booking centers and different offices. People have started to demonstrate. Yesterday also I saw some tracker owners and auto owners, those who are having shortages of oil. As a result, they could not ply their auto from their one destination to another. As a result, they have hiked their rate fees, or what I say, their fare. They are charging extra money from the passengers, but still, despite that, they are not getting some. Some of them are not getting gases. Some are not getting petrols from the what do you say, from the fuel centers. That is a great challenge, that is a great problem. Indian people as a whole is suffering. India imports 90% of its oil. 90%, almost 88% actually imports, 88 to 90% oil India imports. Okay. So around half of its crude oil imports, about 2.5 to 2.7 million barrels a day, travel through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. So largely from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait. So these are the countries from where India imports 2.5 to 2.7 million barrels a day, and that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. So as there is, what I say, the channel has been choked by Iranian authority for the Gulf countries. Why the Gulf countries have been imposed sanction or imposed penalties by Iran? Because Gulf countries are having US bases from where they can attack, or they can help US forces against Iran. That is why, as they have their bases, military bases, that is why those countries are not being allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And United States of America is now putting pressure to open or to clear the Strait of Hormuz, so that oil can be passed, so that oil tankers or oil ships can be passed through the strait. Okay. So, but another problem is that the cost of barrel, cost of oil has already been increased. Every $10 a barrel rise in oil prices could push up inflation by about 0 to 2 to 2.5% points if passed on to consumers. So how Indian people are getting affected by the war? Because oil price has been increased. If the price is increased, then not the companies, definitely the companies, oil companies will charge those amount to the citizens, on the customers. Then we have to pay more money. And it is the same. Many people are complaining, many people are shouting. There's nothing to be shut. It's not the problem of India alone. It is the problem of the world as a whole. It is the people in the United States of America are also not free from this problem, because they are also facing crisis of oil. Okay. So, and you can criticize, the government, but it is not the intended what I say crisis. This crisis has been initiated, or rather I would say, by both America and Israel by attacking on Iran. Okay, so instead of cursing, instead of blaming India, people should blame, or people should criticize America and Israel, because for them this trouble has been started. Okay, now I told you that India imports 80 to 85% of LPG for its consumers, making it the world's second largest LPG importer after China. So India is the world's second largest importer of oil after China. So almost all those shipments come from Gulf producers, mainly Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE and Kuwait, and nearly all pass through the Hormuz Strait. But you see, India did not criticize Israel. India did not tell. India at the same time keeping good relationship with Iran. India is talking. India is making telephone calls to Iranian Prime Minister, Iranian President, and Indian Foreign Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, has also interacted with his counterpart in Iran, and they are keeping or maintaining good relation, so that the channel of flow of what you say Indian ships with carrying oils could come in Indian Ocean, India. So these diplomatic relations are helping India to get some oil from Gulf countries through this Hormuz Strait. India's domestic gas output covers only a fraction of demand. This is natural case. India cannot produce oil except these. Maybe there are some natural, maybe some oil resources, but that has to be investigated, that has to be examined, that has to be inquired of. No, or this has to be that has to be traced by ONGC or other organizations. So India imports about 25 million tons of LNG last year. India alone imported about 25 million tons of LPG last year, roughly 14 million tons of it via Hormuz Strait. Okay, and it among the world's largest LNG buyers out alongside China, Japan and South Korea. Okay. So India holds roughly 100 million barrels in refinery and commercial inventories, about 80% of which is usable, enough to provide around 30 to 35 days of cover, right? So the people who are creating unnecessary panic among the people must remember that there are 100 million barrels in refinery and commercial inventories, that is about 80% of which is usable. So enough to provide around 30 to 35 days to cover. Remember, understand? So there is nothing to be panicked. And if you can do panic, but it will not create any result. You cannot you will not get respite from that. But don't worry. Okay. Yes. Alternative. What India can think alternatively? Yes, India can import oil, except Gulf countries. From where? From USA, Western Africa and Latin America. But the problem India faces is, if India wants to buy or import oil from the USA, African or Latin America, the time will take around already about 25 to 45 days, whereas oil from Gulf countries can be imported within 7 days. So you see, considering the crisis, considering the problem of carrying, India is giving more importance. India is planning to buy oil from Gulf countries because it will be easily available and it could come within a short period of time of 7 days. But to import oil from the United States, Western Africa or Latin America, it will take 25 to 45 days. Okay. So India is playing very wisely. India is here, in this case, India is using its diplomacy so that the ships which are lying stuck up at the Strait of Hormuz can be released or can be moved from the strait to India. So this is India's diplomacy. You see how intelligent India is. Indian Prime Minister and Indian Foreign Minister, Indian Petroleum Minister, they all are in conversation with the concerned people throughout the world, with the Iranian authority, with the other Gulf countries, right? So around 25 to 30 million Russian oil barrels are currently floating on ships in the Indian Ocean, and with only India and China are major buyers. 20 to 30 million Russian oil barrels are currently floating on ships in the Indian Ocean, and only India and China as major buyers, those barrels remain a ready fallback. So, okay, so this is another problem. So you have to understand the crisis. And I told you about diaspora, how how the people, those who have gone to the UAE or for some in Gulf countries for working, they are having problem. How they are, how they are failing, how they are having problems to send their money to India, and their security, their life and livelihood is also a great challenge for India. And India is keeping very good relationship with those countries so that the life and security of Indian people can be safe. So because the safety and security of Indian people, those who are working in the Gulf countries, is an utmost priority of the government of India. But due to diplomacy, some ships have already started to move through Strait of Hormuz towards India. This is a good thing, and this is a good measure for India, which is praiseworthy, because if India does not keep good relation with Iran at this crisis moment, India will suffer a lot, because in India nearly 100 crore consumers are there, factories are there, the medicine factories are there who are producing different goods, who are producing medicines, who are producing fertilizers, will face. And even the electricity manufacturing companies will also, electricity producing companies will also have problems. That is why these are the problems. These are the problems has been initiated by Iraq, by America and Israeli war against Iran. And Indian economy, thirdly, fourthly, I could say how Indian economy could be impacted. India's external balance and government finances could be hit if oil prices stay high for an extended period. Okay. India is considered to be among the most vulnerable to a global oil shock, as it imports nearly 90% of its crude requirements and about 50% of its gas requirements. Over half of the crude is from the Middle East, where export flows have been disrupted by the US-Israel war on Iran, and India's current oil stocks are only enough to cover maximum 30 days. But due to diplomacy of India with Iran, some ships have already started to come in India through the Strait of Hormuz, and this is a good step taken by the government of India and its Prime Minister and its foreign minister. It is said how it is impacted on India. This war has increased oil prices. India's import cost has been increased, and India as a whole is suffering a prolonged, gas supply shortages have already begun hitting industries and consumers, and Iran has threatened to protracted conflict and $200 per barrel for oil. Iran has threatened that they will charge $200 per barrel for oil. You just imagine what will be the cost of oil in India. If oil prices average $100 a barrel for close to 12 months, so the price of oil might be doubled, because Iran has threatened to increase its price to $200 per barrel of oil. You see, a prolonged crisis could widen the country's current account deficit, that weaken the rupee and stock inflation, the government said in monthly report last week. Okay, so Iran war, India's current account deficit. What is the current account deficit due to America, Israel and Iran war? The most immediate impact would be on India's current account deficit. This concern has pushed the rupee to a record low. Today I saw that it has become very low, and it has been 94 rupees per dollar. You see, devaluated. So this is a problem. This is really a great problem for India. An average price of $100 a barrel would widen the current account deficit to 1.9 to 2.2% of GDP for the 26-27. This is one of the worst challenges India will have to suffer, because India wants to become a superpower by 2047. If India wants to become a $30 trillion economy, it needs to grow its economy, it needs to grow its GDP by at least 10%. But instead of that, if its GDP comes down to 1.9, from 1.9 to 2.2%, that means its GDP rate will come down to around 6.2%. So with this 6.2% or 6% GDP growth, Indian economy will be suffered a lot. The federal government's annual expenditure could also rise by 3.6 trillion rupees, that is $39 billion in the next financial year, if oil prices hold at an average of $100 per barrel. So it has been said by Mumbai-based Ilera Securities. So you see the government's total estimate expenditure for the next financial year is $53.5 trillion rupees according to annual budget presented in February. But the cost or the budget allocation must exceed, because the oil price has already been doubled by Iran, right? So that is the crisis. So the Iran war, or America and Israel versus Iran war, has created a tremendous bad impact on Indian economy, Indian pharmaceutical industries, Indian industry, Indian economy, Indian fuel prices, its production, its GDP, its economy, and its geopolitical relation. Geopolitical relation of India is now at a crossroad, because both the warring countries, Israel and Iran, are India's friends. So both of them are India's close friends and good friends. In this situation, India can only adopt the policy of wait and watch. Without this, India cannot do anything. Whatever the opposition parties may claim, whatever the opposition party leaders may shout, they can shout, but their shouting will be considered as child's play, or considered as innocent nincompoop shouting in the wilderness. But the people who are ruling the government, who are ruling the nation, maintaining international relations, are aware of the existing global situation, and how India can tackle this situation is to be seen, is to be examined. Only time will answer how India will overcome this situation. We as Indians definitely hope and expect that India will tide over this crisis, and immediately the war will stop and the Strait of Hormuz will be free. Then the economy, then all the problems of the globe, of the world, might be in proper shape. With the expectation of a war-free world, I would like to conclude here. Thank you. Thank you very much for lending your ears for such a long time.